The recent armed conflict between Russia and Ukraine has brought the complex political environment of post-Soviet Eastern Europe to the world in a lurid satire. Ironically, many of the weapons used by both sides were made during the Cold War. The vast empire that has disappeared, the Soviet Union. These include the Kalashnikov rifle found on the streets of Kherson, Mariupol, and Kyiv, and the humble Makarov pistol. However, another classic weapon of the 20th century, still playing an essential role in the new century, is the RPG-7, a shoulder-mounted, recoilless, rocket, extended-range grenade launcher. And with that, in this video, US Military News Channel will discuss how RPG-7 attacks Russian main battle tanks. Watch this video until the end, and give your opinion. During World War II, the Soviet Army obtained the technical information and valuable experience of German individual anti-tank rocket launchers. The Panzerfaust and Panzerschreck both proved their formidable combat effectiveness, so the Soviet Union decided to develop similar weapons. At the end of 1944, Soviet engineers combined the lightness of the Iron Fist with the reusability of the Tank Killer, equipped with a PG-1 hollow armor-piercing warhead. However, the performance of the ignition system of the new type of weapon was disappointing, and the armor-piercing power was not as great as imagined. The RPG-1's deficiencies were finally addressed in 1947, and the RPG-2 was born. It fires an 82mm hollow-charged armor-piercing projectile, or heat round, from a 40mm inner diameter launch tube. However, since the RPG-2 is essentially just a light recoilless gun, it is impossible to increase the range and the muzzle velocity of the projectile without increasing the weight of the fuel or reducing the importance of the projectile. As a result, Soviet engineers began work on a new weapon system with a rocket booster engine in 1958. Inspired by the German Tank Killer and the American bazooka, the Soviet Union successfully developed an 83mm armor-piercing projectile equipped with a rocket booster engine. The rocket engine increased the effective range, but did not change the shape of the projectile, so it has a considerable armor-breaking ability. In addition to being equipped with a new type of rocket-propelled grenade, the design of the launch tube had been improved, the inner diameter had been enlarged to 45mm, and an expansion chamber had been added at the rear end, with a venturi tube and flared nozzle on the tail. While these improvements increased the launcher's weight by 4.5 kilograms, they significantly increased the projectile's flight speed and directly doubled the effective range to 300 meters. This new weapon received the designation RPG-4 and passed military tests with distinction in 1961. However, the RPG-4 was not mass-produced or equipped due to the Soviet decision to supply a more advanced model. This new type of weapon received the designation RPG-7, and since the Soviet Army equipped it in the 1960s, it's become one of the most famous battlefield support fire in the world today. The RPG-7 launcher weighs 6.35 kilograms and has a total length of 926 millimeters. The outside of the expansion chamber is wrapped with wood or other insulating materials to protect the shooter from the heat. The rear sight is a folding mechanical sight with a 200 to 500 meter division. There's a rail on the left side of the launcher where the PG-07 sight can be mounted. This 2.8 times scope has a reticle that can be illuminated and has the functions of ranging and adjusting wind deflection. The design of the RPG-7 launcher is relatively complex, but the ignition system could not be simpler. The hammer strikes the striker, which hits the primer, ignites the propellant charge, and fires the armor-piercing round. The initial velocity of the projectile is about 120 meters per second. After flying about 9 meters, the rocket booster engine of the armor-piercing projectile ignites and pushes the projectile to fly at a speed of 300 meters per second, with a maximum range of about 900 meters. Since the rocket booster does not fire at launch, the shooter is not affected by its tail flame. Although the RPG-7 has been equipped with several different types of ammunition in its first 6 years of service, the PG-7 heat round is the most common model. The warhead is 85 millimeters in diameter, weighs 2.3 kilograms, and can pop up 4 uniques while flying. The fuse can ensure the absolute safety of the PG-7 armor-piercing projectile. When the projectile is launched, it instantly reaches an initial velocity of 150 meters per second from a static state, and only such an acceleration can release the insurance state of the fuse. As an added safety measure, the PG-7 is also equipped with a self-destruct device to detonate the warhead after flying about 900 meters. Today's modern RPG-7s have the freedom to choose from a wide variety of ammunition that performs better than those of 60 years ago, including more powerful hollow charge heat rounds, tandem charge heat rounds, man-killing grenades, and even thermobaric bombs, which can generate high-temperature, high-pressure blast shockwaves, effectively killing enemies inside of buildings. Currently, 9 countries are producing the RPG-7, and more than 40 countries are equipped with this weapon. Since 1961, more than 9 million RPG-7 launchers have been created, making it the most produced anti-armor weapon ever. From the Grand Heights to the Royal Palace of Hue, from the Bukhara market in Mogadishu to the streets of Kyiv, the RPG-7 is one of the most successful weapons in the history of human warfare, comparable to the longbow and trebuchet. This weapon has dramatically changed how contemporary ground combat is conducted, and it is not near the end of its equipment life. In fact, it's still fighting in hotspots worldwide. Although it was initially developed by the Soviet Union and planned to destroy NATO armed forces on the European plains, at this time, the Ukrainian army was using them to destroy various tanks and armored vehicles made in the Soviet era. Perhaps most ironically, some of the RPG-7s now in the Ukrainian army are American-made. In 2017, Ukraine began procuring the US version of the RPG-7, the PSRL-1, from Texas-based Airtronic. Although the launcher uses modern materials and is equipped with a Picatinny rail, it can still fire all kinds of PG-7 ammunition worldwide. Therefore, the RPG-7 of the Ukrainian army with an American accent. From the RPG-7 equipped by the Ukrainian army, we can see the depth of the US involvement in Ukrainian affairs. If you think about the eastward expansion of NATO, you will understand that Ukrainian minds will explode sooner or later.